Hi there and welcome to today's vlog. Thanks for joining me. I'm always ever so grateful. Early this week, Sue and I had a day in York. The reason we went to York, other than we liked the place, is that we booked to see the actor David Suchet. He was at the Grand Theatre in York, and he was talking about his life, and particularly his life in the acting profession. It was a fascinating insight into some of the experiences he's been through from his early life until more recently. And particularly he was focusing quite a bit of the time on his role as Hercule Poirot, Agatha Christie's famous character. And I think he played that role for some 21 years. And Sue and I, have recently watched some of the old episodes. We love watching David Suchet as Poirot. In fact, we listen to David Suchet every day because we follow the Bible in a Year program. You can look it up on the internet from the website. And if you want to listen to the Bible being read rather than just reading it yourself, you can listen to David Suchet every day. He reads a passage from the Psalms or Proverbs, a passage from the Old Testament, and a passage from the New Testament. And along with that are some comments on the passages from Nicky Gumbel. We find it really helpful, uplifting, upbuilding in our spiritual lives, and certainly a great way to start the day. I often listen to that as I'm doing my early morning walk. And the reason I mention all that is that today's Bible through the year passage from the New Testament, or the theme of today, each day Nicky Gumbel gives a kind of overall theme of the Bible readings, and today's was do the right thing. And that's a really interesting insight, isn't it, or challenge really. Let me give you an example from my early working life. I trained as a chartered accountant many years ago. Before I entered the Methodist ministry, I trained as a chartered accountant. And as a young lad, fairly new to the office, we sometimes used to go and work out of town for a few days or a couple of weeks or so, doing an audit of a client's books. In order to get that done as quickly as possible, often we would work overtime, so we'd work into the evenings, and of course, because of that, we had to keep a timetable and put down how many hours extra we'd worked, not only so that we could be paid the appropriate amount of overtime, but that the client would be charged the correct number of hours. Now, some of my older colleagues, as I was just fairly new to the job, took the opportunity to put down actually more hours than they'd worked, so that they could get paid obviously more. And so that was left me with a real challenge. Do I go along with what everybody else is doing, or do I stand firm as somebody who follows Jesus and believing that the right thing to do was to be honest about how much overtime I was working? And it was a real struggle, I remember, and I was under a lot of pressure. But in the end, I did stand firm and put down the exact amount of overtime that I worked, even though it meant I was standing out from most of the others. And that's just one example of how, if we're going to live the true life as a follower of Jesus, then sometimes, and maybe even often, it will come up against the way that others work or act or speak or behave. We'll sometimes have to swim against the flow of how things are out in the world. Sometimes we've got to stand firm on our beliefs. I'm reminded of a passage in Romans chapter 12, where Paul says this: do not conform yourselves to the standards of this world. So in other words, our standards are often not the world's standards. Don't set the way you do things, the way you act and speak and behave by the world's standards. Do not conform yourselves to the standards of this world, but let God transform you inwardly by a complete change of your mind. Or another translation says, let your mind be renewed. So becoming a follower of Jesus means that sometimes we're going to have to stand out from the crowd. It's not always easy to do that. But we've got to do it because we're now committed to following the way of Jesus. So sometimes we've got to we're challenged to do the right thing, and the right thing is God's way, not the world's way. And I think that there's lots of examples these days of how the world is thinking this way, the world says that, but we've got to stay firm. Truth, we've got to stay fixed to the truth that is revealed in Jesus. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And so there's a challenge for you and for me. Am I living in a way that is honouring God? Am I living in God's way? Am I doing the right thing? God gives us his Holy Spirit, who not only guides us and shows us the right way, but strengthens us to do the right thing. So God bless you as you seek to do the right thing in God's eyes. Thank you so much for listening today.